Hey everybody, welcome to Super Comic Fun Times from the Pile, Episode 2. My name is MapleBob23 and I'll be your host. So as you may have noticed, I retroactively renamed my last video that had to do with looking at one of these books that comes from that big box of comic books I unpacked the other week. And I just decided to call it From the Pile. It was kind of inspired from my National Comic Book Day special, where I just showed the big piles of comics I had, like most of them not even open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this one. So here we can see I like the layout. So this is a 64-page special. This is Justice League International. I chose this one because I'm a bit Marvel heavy right now. While I did do the New Gods, I can't think off the top of my head while I'm recording this what other DC books I might have done. I know I've mentioned them, but I thought for the DC fans I should do a DC book from the pile. I chose this one because it was from the 80s, 1989. Quite frankly, I'm not very familiar with this group. I wasn't reading DC back then. In 1989, I was hardly reading anything. I do apparently Justice League International is on vacation, and you see all these photos from their vacation, so that's kind of cool. That looks like it's probably Martian Manhunter, unless it's some other green guy. I don't know what those are. It's kind of weird. So anyways, before I read it, I kind of feel I cheat you if I don't open this up where you can see it. So this is the first time I'm opening this. You see this white dot. Like, if you're not familiar with buying used comic books, most comic book stores have a color code for the price of their books, and like a white dot could be $1 or $2, a red dot could be $5, and I'm not sure if there's any industry standard. There could be, maybe all comic books. I mean, it would make sense to, so whatever used bookshop you walk into across the country, all the dots are the same, but people aren't always so eager to be herded. So let's see. Let's look at some of the advertisement here. Acclaim. It's an Acclaim game. Masters of the Game. Official Nintendo seal of quality. That's right. So yeah, let's just flip through a couple of these pages and then I'll read the book and tell you what I think of it. So here we've got an island. We got some word bubbles. So maybe it's Superman listening in on him since he's got super hearing. Oh yeah, this is supposed to be like 2 complete tales. So, Around the World with the JLI by Griffen, DeMatteis, McConney, Patterson, Marcos, plus The Man I Never Was by Griffen, DeMatteis, and Gula. And Who's Embassy Staff Member. So yeah. It's a little windy out here. It's a beautiful fall day. I just mowed my backyard to grind up some of the leaves. I find that works best if I keep on it. So I will go ahead and I will. Oh, who is that? Is that Blue Beetle? I can't. Yeah, that's Blue Beetle. I especially like him in Countdown to Infinite Crisis. So I'll go ahead and read the book, and I'll be back. And I will tell you how it went. Hey everybody, and I'm back. I finished reading this book. I have to say that the main story, the big one, Around the World with the JLA, was not very good. It wasn't even really a story. What happened is, so it starts here with this island, and it has some dumb jokes. Okay, it's like here. I'm telling you, it's a great idea. Look, Herb, I might be a primitive, but I'm not stupid. I mean, I went to Oxford. What are you trying to say, Chief? I'm saying it's a dumb idea. And so you have these characters here. They're on this island. They name it later. It's something like Cooey, Cooey, Cooey. And they are situated in a strategic place. This takes place in the 80s during the Cold War, so both the Soviet Union and the United States could want to build a naval base there or something, a base of operations. So this Herb guy, he decides that he should offer it to the Justice League International, because they're not really a country, they're kind of above countries, and they'll probably just like visit every once in a while, and they won't bring a lot of foreigners there. The chief is worried because he's afraid that once the superheroes are there, that will attract supervillains and alien attacks and stuff. And this story seems to take place after Invasion. It's not a story I've read, but Comic Pop did back issues on it a few months ago, and I'll go ahead and post the link down in the description. So anyways, this story is really padded out, and finally the chief gives Herb the go-ahead to go and find the JLA or JLI, and then it gets really stupid because he's like, well, why are you sending me? It's like, well, why did you come up with the idea if you don't want to go? It's like, he went to college in Brooklyn and he really hated it. He went to a 4-year school for 6 years because of the language barrier. And then here you got a pretty cool art. Everybody in here is jokey. I think this is from that era when Super Friends and Saturday morning cartoons are still in everybody's mind, and I could almost hear like the laugh track while I was reading some of the things that are staying here. Like Blue Beetle, he doesn't want to go on this trip for whatever reason. They have to go on a trip of all the JLI embassies, and Blue Beetle has a hot date, and then what's his name, Booster Gold, makes a joke about, you know, oh, they let your Aunt Millie out of the home. And then that joke just comes up over and over again, and it was like a story I almost wanted to give up on. It does have some good art though. You do get a tiny bit of backstory for what's going on, that possibly this JLI was set up after the Invasion storyline, but I don't really know. And then Martian Manhunter elects to stay behind, and then eventually Herb shows up in New York, because they're kind of chasing each other around. That's the thing. It's like a pointless farce. It's like every place Herb shows up, the Justice League, they need to talk to Maxwell Lord, who, I don't know him that well. I've read some stories where he was a bad guy, but in here he's like sort of running the Justice League. He's kind of like a government guy. And so, yeah, then here they're in Russia, and they talk about magnificent Russian technology, and they're looking in a bathroom. It's like, it doesn't work as a joke. One thing I like is, like, here you can see Martian Manhunter, and just the artist for this did really good at getting facial expressions. You know what people are feeling from their expressions. So but yeah, so this story was pretty much a waste of time. It's like, here you've got like this what's his name, Scott-Free, Mr. Miracle. He talks about they're in England now, and this guy is like a stickler for the rules. They're doing this fire drill that doesn't really need to be done because it's on page 34 of your manual. And so Mr. Miracle says they'd love him on Apocalypse. And then they talk about doing a little tour again, and they ask this guy, and he goes, no speak English. And then Mr. Miracle goes, I think this is Apocalypse, because they leave him with this guy who can't speak English to show him around or something. It's confusing and stupid. And the two characters that aren't in this story are Guy Gardner and Batman, and they're asked after every so often, but it's more or less just a pointless story, except it's got some good artwork in some places. And then there's this guy who's is it Mr. Atom? Apparently there was something that happened where Blue Beetle is really angry at this guy that almost looks like I think Captain Canuck, but that just kind of it's not the Maple Leaf, but that's the closest character I know. And so apparently something happened to Mr. Atom and he betrayed people, but nobody knows about it except for Maxwell Lord and Blue Beetle, and they're supposed to keep it quiet. This I thought was pretty good. Now, this is, what's his name, Dibney, the Elongated Man. I really know him better from the stories that came later, the one where his wife dies, Identity Crisis, and then in 52 where he's trying to resurrect her. But this is a pretty good shot of everybody. So they finally meet up. There's Herb. He finally meets up with Maxwell Lord to, right here, the island is called Kui Kui Kui. I don't know if that's supposed to be a joke, but yeah, I mean, everything in this story is just kind of uneven. And then they decide to do it. And then, like, you know, you had all these nice pictures, these snapshots from the front. You don't see any of that in here. It's just like Maxwell Lord accepts the offer of Herb, and they go to the island for vacation. And this is what you get to see of it, what's on the cover. It's like, I would have rather seen some of this, like them relaxing, you know, like the X-Men would play softball or something. Then you have this second story, which is called The Man I Never Was, and this one was good. It's a lot shorter. I think it's only 8 pages, so, you know, you just suffer through, let's see, what was the page count? 33 pages of this main story that doesn't go anywhere and isn't fun, and it's a lot of talking. And then you get this short 8-page story which focuses on the Martian Manhunter. And I'm not sure when he came into DC, but it seems like it must have been relatively recently. It's like he had been a cop and his partner has been killed, and so he goes on a manhunt to, he thinks the guy might have been killed by a mobster who his friend was investigating. And I like this. The first story, I couldn't even find the credits for it, you know, except for on the front page here where they tell you it was Griffen, DeMatteis, and those other guys. But here you have like Keith Griffen. So yeah, there, his name is there. But I just love how they did that on the newspapers. Martian Manhunter just slams this young kid who works for the mobster at a low level into the thing, but then Batman shows up, and you have this really great story. It's like this whole thing is narrated by Martian Manhunter, and he keeps like focusing on Batman's pain, a child covered in blood while his parents are dying, and Martian Manhunter talks about his own masks. And I really didn't know much about Martian Manhunter before here, even though I've read a lot of stories like from 2000 onward, like Identity Crisis and that stuff, where he's shown up. And finally, like, I think I know who he is. And here's this little guy, his name is Oberon, and he looks like a cartoon character. And anyways, they're both worried about Martian Manhunter because they don't know what he's going to do. And Maxwell Lord is like, he's an alien, which I think that's not too different from the TV show Supergirl. I've only seen the first season of that. So that's kind of true, even though they're totally different characters. So anyways, yeah, this second story was totally worth it. You know, you have Guy Gardner. There's a little bit of comic relief in here. Apparently there's a comic strip, and Guy Gardner is made to look like a fool, and so he's just like busting up stuff. So like here you can see go away, Guy, and the guy is acting really stupid, and then they tell him, oh, we just didn't update the strip because I guess something happened to Guy Gardner where he was stupid for a while and had bunny slippers. I don't know, but it wasn't bad because it was like only this little part of the story, and it did like you know, give you some break from a little bit of comic relief. So anyways, that's this episode of From the Pile, and like, it's a mixed bag. I would say the second story just makes this whole book worth it. The first story is, yeah, there's like no point to it. So I've got plenty of others from the pile, so there'll be more episodes of this. I'm planning on doing kind of an episodic thing on the Hulk, not World War Hulk, that's not come out yet, the Planet Hulk. I've started reading that, and that is really good. That has some great artwork. So I'm going to kind of like read a few chapters of that at a time, and then I'll do some videos on that, and I think I'll have the first one up tomorrow night. If not tomorrow night, then Tuesday. This has been October 1st, It's well into fall. It cooled off a lot while I was doing this video. Anyways, love you guys. Hope you enjoy it. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And look in the description for my Amazon link if you'd like to support this channel. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.